And blessed to be
The
with
president
you.
committed the
Kevin
crime
Miller,
of
good
obstruction. You could not.
And we'll get back to that in a minute. Thank you for joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio.
You're going to have to repeat that for me. Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which act? Pardon?
Can you read the last question?
The last question was
I want to make certain I got it accurate. I'm sorry, could you restate?
The individual is in fact obligated to provide what's being demanded by the regulation or statute, meaning you don't have any wiggle room, right?
I'd have to look more closely at the statute.
Well, I just read it to you.
And what was the question, sir, if I might?
Correct?
And where are you reading from on that?
I'm reading from my question.
Then could you repeat it?
Okay.
Is that correct on the screen?
Can you repeat the question? And now that I have the language on the screen.
Is it correct?
What was the question?
Pardon?
Can you read the last question?
The last question was
I want to make certain I got it accurate. I apologize.
Sure.
Can you start it again?
Okay, sure.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one?
Attorney number 2 in the Inspector General's report and Strzok both worked on your team, didn't they?
Pardon me? Can you ask?
They both worked on your team, didn't they?
I know. I heard Strzok. Who else were you talking about?
Attorney number 2 identified in the Inspector General's report.
Okay. And the question was?
Volume 2, page 87 and 88 of your report. True?
I'm sorry. Could you again repeat the question?
And there we have it. Good morning. I don't know which is more unreliable, the Commodore 64 here at the Broadcast Center or Robert Mueller's testimony. Kevin Miller with you, waking up on the right side. Taking your calls. We never get tired of it. It never gets old. Mueller, confused Mueller, looking very confused. Let's go to your calls, your reactions. Hank, thank you for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
But Marvin went back on vacation again.
Hank? All right, you got to be ready when we roll. We love Hank. However, got to be ready. Since there's no Hank, you leave me to this one. Go ahead.
I was out shopping, cotton and baling hay. Good morning, America. Boy, I tell you what, they laid the facts right out on the table, and all the third graders out there that need people to interpret things for them. I thought Mueller did sound a little bit like Reagan did during the Ollie North trials. Oh, could you repeat that? Oh, I don't recall. Oh, yeah. So the guy's old, okay? President Trump's old, okay? Half the Congress is old, okay? Drain that swamp and get the squad in. Get the youth in America so we can move forward in education and everything that we need to do. I mean, come on. And I told you Epstein on air better watch his back, and now what happened? Tried to hang himself. Well, they say they don't know what happened. That he could have got beat up. But, yeah, it's a tic-tac-toe game, Miller, and you know that. You can have your glory today, maybe the next day, but maybe by Monday, LS gets a big X on top of your O's, and I win the game for that day. So brag all you want. President can walk around as a big dud for the Democrats. It's going to take one little hiccup, and the squad will be in there forever.
Why are you cheering against the United States of America?
I'm cheering for the United States of America.
You know, obviously, this has been a debacle by your acolytes, the Democrats. Really, that's all you have is the anti-Spice Girls. They're not a squad. They're not even the old Spice Girls. They are the anti-Spice Girls. And who wants to hang out with the Hate America crowd?
They're the new America, and they're not a Hate America crowd. They love America. They love the middle class. They don't like the billionaires, one now in jail for sex trafficking, who knew the President of the United States well, who the President claims, I didn't know well at all, but there's 10 million photos with him, and they actually had a party of his own in Florida.
Say what you want about President Trump. He's not a racist.
I didn't say he was a racist. Did I say he was a racist?
I'm just saying that compared to the squad, he's not a racist.
The squad is going to win this for the victory of the United States to move forward. You got all these, Mueller's old, everybody in that hearing was old. Hillary is old. Trump's old. I can't wait until the youth take over America again. I just can't wait.
What, the youth like Omar?
I love Omar. I love her. She's a great American citizen. And they take stuff out of context and talk about her when she's talking about fear and white men cause more fear than this and that, like Timothy McVeigh and Las Vegas, the guy shooting all the people. It's tit for tat. You can play games with everything. And the youth know that. The youth are into Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube.
Now, here, let me just hold on. Here. Shh,
they're not into Fox.
Hold on. Shh. For everybody listening, you just heard liberal Steve defend Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman.
And I will defend.
Here's 40 seconds of Ilhan Omar in her own words about white men.
Conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Yep, she loves America. She's not a racist.
Well, she's talking about fear. And
she's talking about you, Whitey.
Who did the shootings in Las Vegas?
She's talking about you, Whitey.
Timothy McVeigh. Who did all the shootings in
She's talking about you there, buddy. Maybe you should be profiled. Maybe you are being profiled.
And who are most pedophiles in this United States? White men. And churches.
That's a reach. Once again, we go back to Hank. By the way, phone lines are available for your rapid reaction at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Hank, good morning.
Good morning. I think that Mueller, when I first listened to him, I thought he was on the near side of Alzheimer's. But after going over the whole thing, I'm convinced that he basically took the tack that I couldn't hear and fumbling and stumbling to run out the clock. I think he realized there was 5 minutes a shot, and by basically asking people repeating questions, I don't remember this or that, he essentially ran the clock on it. Plus, I think he didn't want to go there in the first place, and by giving a bad performance, it discouraged any kind of attempt by the Democrats or Republicans ever to call him up again. I think he has plenty to worry about, and particularly on the Republican side, about a lot of things in terms of how he ran the investigation. So I don't think he has any great desire to be up in Kirkland. And so I think by giving a horrendously poor performance, he discourages anybody from calling him up again. And I think that was what he was up to.
Here's another one, though, with him. Legitimately, though, he just seemed out of touch.
Well, I don't know if he's as out of touch as he gave himself to be. Now, maybe he may be. I'm just, like I said, all I can say, because I don't know him personally or have anybody that does know him personally. But I think that he had a lot. I think he had a lot to worry about on this. I also think, before I get off the phone, that this whole.
Well, what do you mean a lot to worry about? Like what?
Well, for one thing, I think if questions were asked, for instance, about his role as FBI director under Obama, if questions were raised about the fact that if it comes down to prosecution for the uranium fraud, the play for pay, why did he squash the FBI informant that was informing as far as the Russians selling? Because the collusion was on Hillary's side and on the Russian side. Why did he, as FBI director, chose to look the other way? and approve this thing when it was obviously obvious there was obvious this was an obvious play for pay. I think he's a person whatever happened to him when he was in Vietnam or this thing. I think he sold his soul to basically become a career bureaucrat, and I think that he somewhere along the line lost any kind of sense of honor. This whole thing about, before I got the phone, this whole thing about obstruction of justice is an absurdity. And ever since you go back to Sir Robert Coke in Anglo-American jurisprudence, you have to have an underlying crime to charge anybody for obstruction of justice. And this thing about McGahn and the saying that for one thing, Trump didn't act on his threat to begin with. You got to have some sort of action, but also they didn't prove that the crime ever took place, let alone Trump being guilty of a crime. They couldn't even prove that a crime took place in this. So, I mean, how could you have obstruction of justice if you can't even prove an underlying crime? I mean, the whole position of the Democrats in this is totally absurd. They're depending on people's ignorance of the law in order to sell this thing over.
Well, it's all about emotion. Hank, thank you for the call and for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Liam, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liam.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I've never called before, but I just heard this moron liberal Steve that talking about the squad, as they like to call themselves, and profiling's against the law, and a lot of other things they're talking about doing are against the law. And yet we got people like liberal Steve that want the youth to take over America. Well, they're not the youth of America. They're the youth of everywhere else that hates America. And I don't agree with the crazy stuff they talk about, and I can't believe we've got people here in Idaho that agree with them.
Well, look, you got Mayor Beater. I'm sure he agrees with him.
Sure he does. I like I said, I listen to you a lot. Love you, Kevin, and but I can't. I just had to talk about that guy because it's hard to believe that people actually think that way. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Take care.
God bless. Have a good day.
God bless. Good to hear from Liam in Emmett. Nate in Caldwell with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Nate.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you, sir?
I'm living the dream, sir. And you?
I would have to agree there. I thought it was pretty interesting yesterday, though, with Mueller in front of Congress. But my opinion on the whole thing is that he was there for only one reason, and that was to say that that his report did not clear President Trump of any wrongdoing, and so he was there for just 2 seconds worth of testimony. The Democrats could care less about any of the other 5.5 hours of testimony. That's all they wanted him for.
Right. They probably wish that they had him for 5 minutes and the rest could go away.
Exactly. It was a total embarrassment, and I agree with President Trump. The Democrats are hurting right now because of what happened yesterday, but they just wanted that one sound bite so that they could continue their investigations and continue to waste our time and our money.
Well, I like the way you pronounce Mueller. That's the way I think his name should be pronounced, not Mueller. But Nate, you're right about that, and of course, the media will never give us credit for this great embarrassment that was the Mueller testimony yesterday.
Yes, indeed. I also wanted to say happy anniversary to Patriot Ray and his wife. They're great people. He was actually one of my youth advisors.
Wow.
Way back in the day. So
Well, no wonder you turned out so good.
I don't know about that, but
I would if Patriot Ray was your youth advisor. I can testify to that, man.
He is a wonderful guy. I have nothing but good things to say about him. So,
well, that's good because his ears would be burning if you had anything else to say.
If he's on his anniversary, he's probably not even listening right now. So,
fair enough. Nate, thank you for the call and listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
And thank you, sir, for all you do.
Thank you, our great friend Nate. More of your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling on the right side, security guard Mike off of his big appearance with Garth Brooks. Good morning.
Oh, hello there, Kevin Miller. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Robert Rumblin' Bumblin' Stumblin' Mueller and his great testimony yesterday. Oh my goodness, that guy needs to just retire and go on vacation, go fishing down in Florida or something. Anyway, also the squad. Oh my gosh, like Donald Trump says, why do you always complain? Why are you trying to fix things instead of always complaining? If you don't like this country, you can stay if you want, but it's fine if you leave. I won't miss you. Don't let the door hit you in the hindquarters. Oh my goodness, they are terrible. And also, all these people that are coming up from South America. Oh, let's run to America so we can be put in the concentration camp. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's bull crap. They're coming up here because they're living nice. They're getting good stuff. They're getting $2,100 a month just popping into the country. And our homeless people in L.A. You saw that video of all those people in L.A. It's terrible. And that's all run by the wonderful, wonderful Democrats. Oh my goodness. Let's share the wealth with everybody. Oh my goodness, Kevin Miller. These people are out of control. Unbelievable.
They are out of control now. What was it like meeting Garth Brooks?
Oh man, Garth Brooks was fantastic. So I was working in a catering area, right? And I was working security, and this guy comes in and he's in his gray sweats and everything, and I said he just apparently got done working out with the Broncos football team, and he didn't have no credential. I says, hey, sir, do you have your credential? You're not supposed to be in this area. I'd sure hate for something bad to happen to Garth Brooks. And the guy busted up laughing, and it was Garth Brooks himself.
Wow.
You know, and listen, he said, hey, did you eat some breakfast yet? I go, no, I ain't eating no breakfast. He said, you want to come over and join us? I said, well, I can't because I'm standing watch over here. He said, well, I'm the boss. If you want to come on over, come on over. And so it was great. And I tell you what, the guy's a gentleman. When Trish Yearwood came up, he stood up and pulled her chair out for her. Everybody, what a gentleman. He's a great guy. He's a real nice fella. I really enjoyed the show, and it was fantastic.
Well, that's good because you hear these people and you never know what they're really like. So we appreciate that.
He's a down home country. I hope he moves here. I really do. I hope he moves here. He's just a nice guy. He'd be a great addition to Boise. He's a great guy.
Security guard Mike, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Kevin Miller, and have a great day. Thanks for all you do for the wonderful Treasure Valley in Idaho.
Look, man, dinner with Garth, that's pretty good. Good for you.
Right, you have a wonderful day.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. KIDO Talk Radio time, 29 after the hour. Ron Paul, Jim, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everybody that was stating, that, yeah, he's old. Yeah, he doesn't, honestly, I don't know if he even read his report because I don't think he made it, and I don't think he was directing anything. He was just a figurehead to put in front of the camera. And I noticed that he made the questionnaire read everything. So it's as if he didn't know any of that. He just wanted to hear it, and it was like he heard it for the first time. So I don't know if this was, it could be that he was just wasting time, which I believe is true. But at the same time, I think that what the I can't remember who it was, Collins or whatever, that said that this was all a phony, a entrapment type thing where they didn't even investigate the evidence that was presented of how the dossier got created or anything like that. It was never in question. So I think this was, to get that soundbite, to get that headline, the exoneration headline, and the Republicans were right on it, the ones that did the question. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, it's funny because the Democrats have nothing left to do but spin. And, let me just share with you what Byron York read. It just took minutes for Robert Mueller's testimony to turn into a painful exercise when it became clear the 74-year-old special counsel had difficulty handling questions posed to him about his long, complex investigation into the Trump-Russia affair. Now, he didn't answer 198 questions, Ron Paul, Jim.
Right. It's as if he'd never even seen it.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking that he wasn't in charge of this investigation at all. He was just a figurehead to put on on there. And it was the rank, the people below him. I forget the guy's name, Rosenstein, or those people, Weissman. I think those are the people that were actually doing this. So, he was just there to deflect from the people that were actually, the puppeteers that were actually running it.
Ron Paul, Jim, thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio and calling in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Coming up next, Congressman Fulcher, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling on the right side, our great friend, Congressman Fulcher, joining us. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning. It's always good to be on the right side with Kevin Miller.
Well, we love having you on. And speaking of the right side, your reaction to, work that has or hasn't been done in Congress before the big recess.
Well, I'm glad that this Mueller hearing it turned out pretty much the way everybody predicted, or at least those of us on the Republican side predicted. That I don't anticipate, Kevin, that's going to be the end of this, because there's still people who are just set on trying to keep this moving. However, at least that's in the rearview mirror. And now we're moving on towards the budget cap battle, and so I expect that to play out today on the House floor.
Well, that would be easier said than done, and Congressman, that's been going on longer than you and I have been alive.
Oh, yeah, it has, and I'll just tell you right now, I'm not going to be supporting this particular move. And honestly, I do not know how the overall House is going to go. There's going to be the argument that says, "Hey, look, we've got to just keep everything rolling. We have to make sure there's no disruption with any services and all that kind of thing." And there's an argument to be made for that. But there's also the position that I'm taking on this, which is, we aren't doing anything. I mean, nothing to address the debt service. And this move, if passed, would increase the cap by probably the largest margin that it's ever been increased in one single move. It basically takes the cap discussions out of the equation till 2021, and I just don't feel good about signing on to that. I think we should be more aggressively trying to attack the spending issues.
Congressman Fulcher joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Dave Ramsey talks about this, and some of us can and can't relate to this. When we run up too much of a deficit, the credit card companies cut us off. What's the jeopardy here with the federal government and the spending that has continued to get out of control? You're a conservative, a fiscal conservative. You understand the need to balance the budget.
Right. So here's the deal, and why we've been able to get away with it for so long. We're 22 plus trillion with a T in debt right now, and Kevin, the bulk of that and the big issues surrounding that are Medicare, Social Security, and so that and Medicare, Medicaid, I should say, Social Security. Those are just monster programs, and everyone is anxious about touching those. But we're $22 trillion in debt. We've been able to get away with that because the U.S. is still the most solvent government, the most solvent system in the world. But in order to pay for that, we sell bonds, and there's foreign interests that purchase those bonds, and when you have debt, you're beholden to the debt holder at some point. And so here we are, we're negotiating with the likes of China, other countries on tariff things. And, they're in many cases purchasing those bonds to keep us floating. And so I, for one, am just very uncomfortable that we have to go to outside interests and be beholden to those outside interests because we have debt.
Congressman Fulcher joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's talk a little bit about some situations going on. We haven't talked foreign policy in a while, sir. We've got the Iranian situation heating up. Obviously, North Korea firing that missile near Japan. What's going on in the halls of Congress, the concerns over these foreign challenges, sir?
The Iranian issue is really bothersome. They have been performing more negative acts than the public has been exposed to, and this has been going on for some time. I think part of it has to do with the fact that their economy is basically internally collapsed, and that's largely due to sanctions that the U.S. and other countries have put on them for being bad actors, and so they're acting out, and they're attacking neighbors, they're hijacking ships, basically just acting in a very, very negative way. And I'm sure that you probably have some degree of familiarity, but that culture really doesn't negotiate well, and they perceive negotiation as a form of weakness. They react to strength and only strength, and so unfortunately, there's nothing that I know that's secret about this, but I'm just given what I do know, Kevin. I think that's not going to likely end well. I think that there's going to have to be force that is utilized in order to calm that situation down, because they're truly a disruptive force in the Middle East, and they're exporting a lot of that disruption to the U.S.
Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us here, and that's where it gets scary. Not only were we talking earlier about fiscal instability, but now we've got these foreign, perhaps sleeper cells here. What about the immigration situation? Obviously, we would love Congress and the president to get together and, simply saying solve the problem, but get things done. I know this is a grave concern for you. You've reached across the aisle several times during your time in Congress. You continue to do so. Any movement there, sir?
A couple of points that might be worth noting. First of all, in one-on-one circumstances, you're exactly right. I meet with colleagues on both sides of the aisle every single day, and we talk about this. We also talk about healthcare, other things, but that are all big issues. But there's definitely room to move. If in this case, if the Speaker and the President would cooperate enough to allow an agenda for true negotiations, and then we would have this ball advanced much further. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is not getting media as far as I can tell, the physical structures continue to be built, and the dollars that are being used for that have been appropriated for other things, which the president cannot appropriate money. That's only Congress. But these dollars have been appropriated for one thing or another, and they have either sat there or haven't been used or being reprioritized. But there's dollars from other areas that the president has redirected that continues to build the structure. And so there is progress down there, and that is helping in some of these critical areas. But that's still quite a ways out. There's still very much a crisis on that front.
Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. What do you say to Idaho farmers and businessmen? Our situation's rather unique when it comes to immigration. The migrant workers come in, they go home. and I guess you could call us one of the original melting pot states, if you will, the Idaho perspective on the immigration challenge, sir.
Well, I get visitors quite frequently from the dairy community, from the ag community, from the construction community, and each have their own take on that. As we speak, I'm about 3 feet away from a conference room door in the Capitol, and there's an immigration work group, which I'm a part of, that's addressing that very thing. I stepped out, quite honestly, to do this call with you. I'm going to step back in. But here's the situation. We have a worker shortage to a large extent because of pay rates. At a certain rate, we can solve that shortage. Now, I get the fact that, hey, if other entities or other interests, competing businesses can hire labor for, $15 an hour, then you want to be competitive. You want to be able to hire for that same rate. But until this gets solved, it's going to take probably some increased pay in order to solve some of those worker shortages. I can tell you this, right now on the table is several potential amendments to the worker visa program that include things like a mandatory E-Verify, a mandatory sign-in, sign-out. Does not include family members like a lot of people want. But those are the types of amendments we're looking at right now that would have a set amount of time. There would be a worker visa that people could come and go, but it would be on a lot of conditions. One, there's E-Verify. Two, it's strictly enforced. Those types of things, Kevin.
And finally, Congressman, we'll let you go. Get you out on this one. We know you hang with a lot of people. You brought Jim Jordan to Idaho. He had a very passionate. He's a very passionate guy, whether he's talking about Ohio State wrestling or the Mueller report. What's it like to have a conversation with him? Do you get a word in?
Well, when it comes to the Mueller report, not much. That winds him up quicker than just about anything that I know. He's kind of like a microwave. You just push the button and watch him run. But he's a very thoughtful person. He knows that issue inside and out. It's hard for him not to talk when that thing comes up because he probably, well, as you saw yesterday, he knows it certainly better than Mueller does. Right. So on that issue, he's just extremely knowledgeable, a very thoughtful person, and he's a strong asset in my view here in the U.S. Congress.
Congressman Fulcher, we appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you when you're back. I know you're not taking time off. You continue to work for the people here of the 1st District. We appreciate that, sir.
I will, and I'll just tell you, I think that there's a reasonable chance that we don't start the recess when we are scheduled to. And frankly, I'm fine with that because I think this budget cap thing could string out just a little bit.
Well, you heard it from Russ Fulcher first. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for giving me the airtime.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye. There's our friend Russ Fulcher, Congressman Fulcher, predicting that Congress will not recess until there's a budget deal. Speaking of a deal, let's make a deal. Terry from State College, Pennsylvania, joining us now.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Wow, we are so blessed to have Russ down there. We really are.
He's a good man.
And we're judged by the company that we keep, and the fact that he likes to hang out with Jordan says a lot. I mean, a whole lot. I've got a question for you. Hello?
This isn't Ask the Host, but go ahead.
Okay. Omar, she's been getting a lot of publicity. Mm-hmm. Number one is Ethics Committee right now is investigating her for tax fraud, immigration fraud.
Yeah, but who runs the Ethics Committee? The libs.
But hang on. You can only hide when there's so much documentation and there's so much knowledge out there. There's only so much that you can hide. Now, someone found a tweet of hers from two and a half years ago where a Somalian citizen, or an American citizen who was a Somalian, told her at a meeting, we cannot ship the Somalian way of life over here to America. And what did she say to them? Well, then we need to send you back. Does that sound familiar? Back to where you came from. But yet if President Trump says that to her, oh, it's racist. I mean, this woman's got to go. She is nothing. She is nothing about the American way of life. Nothing at all. So, Looney Steve, there's your Omar that you think so much of. You know, she's out to destroy everything that your grandchildren will inherit. So, chew on that one for a bit. And Kevin, doing a great job. I just want to get that in there about Omar. I mean, she's got a trail behind her that's as filthy and greasy as they come. And I hope they nail her.
Well, what did you think of Mueller?
I thought that back, a month before he had concluded the report, all of a sudden things went real quiet with him. And I think at that point he was trying to find a way to preserve himself. I think he's all about preserving himself and carrying a neutral flag right down through the center, you know, and he couldn't find anything. So he was being very careful how much he gave the Democrats, and if anything at all. So, you've had your own interviews on there. People who know him personally who have said he's a good man, he's an honorable man. I know I wanted to believe that, but it's very hard, you know, when you've got somebody going after the greatest president that any of us will ever see in our lifetime. And it's just very hard. So I'm still putting that one together. I think he handled himself well. I think he knew exactly what to answer, what not to answer. I think he understood that the group they pulled together to investigate President Trump were also anti-Trumpers, and he didn't want that to be hanging around his neck. I think he did an excellent job of preserving himself. That's what I think he did.
Well, that's beyond my purview, and I'm not going to answer that question.
I understand that. So he'll just fade away into the sunset, continue to collect his pension, whatever unreported money that we know nothing about, and he'll just fade away. I don't see him being resurrected in any shape or form back into public service again.
They're not bringing him back.
No, nobody will. Nobody will. Kevin, good job. Really good job you're doing. Keep it up. Don't let any of the secrets get just tucked away under the bed where nobody can see them.
Thank you, Terrence.
Good day, Kevin.
Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Sean. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. So where do we go from here? Congressman Fulcher saying, look, we've got to get this budget deal taken care of. And quite frankly, you know, people are talking about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and all the entitlement programs. Before we do that, with all due respect, we've got to solve the illegal problem. You cannot tell any American that it is fair that we're going to fund programs, and for that matter, the people coming over as refugees as well. We're going to fund them to have the free food, the free housing, the free education, the free specialized treatment at the expense of Americans when you have good, hardworking, honest Americans who have Idahoans who have put money into that system and continue to fund that system year after year after year. Please don't tell me about cutting Social Security when we're increasing benefits for the illegals. Please don't tell me about cutting Medicare and Medicaid when we're giving free medicine to people that are here illegally, or the refugees for that matter. Look, I understand that life is tough, but you have people that deserve the benefits because they paid for them. Where in the world, whether it's Congress, whether it's Omar and the crew, AOC and the little three, that we put other people from other countries ahead of Americans? That's not nationalism. That's just common sense, right? Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Hello, Dave. You know, I was so excited about that. Ray and I said, hey, man, there's a liner there, and I was just so excited to share this with you. We have Dee texting in, emailing in from Pennsylvania. Dee's been with me since my days in Pittsburgh, saying Mueller was on antidepressants. No doubt about it. Well, we don't know if Mueller was on antidepressants, but certainly his testimony did not help the move to impeach the president, which is good. But now it's time for Congress to do their job, you know, like the sports teams or like you. I've often thought that when you go to work, you're responsible for things, right? You're responsible, whether it's manufacturing something, educating people, providing a service, fixing something. If you don't do your job, well, you don't get paid. You take a look at what's going on with Congress, and they've got a big issue, a big challenge that impacts all of us. Now, Robert Mueller can get up there. Robert Mueller's got a big pension. Robert Mueller is going to be, hanging out with his friend James Comey, while the rest of us really wonder about the financial stability of this country. And the stock market can continue to go up and up and up. But what happens when there's that adjustment? What happens when we've got an issue because Congress didn't figure out how to be fiscally responsible? You're fiscally responsible. Dave Ramsey talks about that. Why can't the government be?